Hi everybody, welcome to Moto Club's Forza stream. Thanks for joining. Today we're going to do part two of the fastest cars that fastest NFTs that we have available. So what we did last time is the first series we went around the test track, see how fast it did around a track. This series is how fast they go at top speed and also quarter mile time. We're going to try some other metrics down the road, but we wanted to see just how fast these cars performed in a straight line. The top speed gives you a good idea of how much horsepower these cars have. We saw in the last stream that the track around a track doesn't necessarily equate into the fastest car in a straight line. The number one spot was not the car that we had in the fastest around the track. So pretty cool to see the metrics there. And we're going to continue on that with going down the list and seeing the other cars that we have that are available. So let's just take a look at the fastest race times that we have. So the McLaren P1 was the fastest around the track, the Senna was second, and the 918 Spider. So last week we did the top five cars, the two McLarens, the Porsche, the GT500, and the ZL1 Hennessy. Those were the fastest. Now we're going to continue on doing the 4 GTs, the Shelby Mustang Signature Edition, the Aston Martin DB9, and then I got a surprise for you guys at the end where I'm going to see where my two personal cars that I made in Forza stack up against the NFT cars we have from the Bear Jackson auction. So thanks for tuning in. It's going to be a fun one. So just so you guys are aware, we have some card packs for a sale. If you click on or scan the QR code on the stream overlay, we can get you into Moto Club, see what kind of card packs we have available. We got lots of cool packs available on our website, and then also if you want any updates on Moto Club Digital on Facebook, Moto Club Digital on Instagram, and Moto Club Digital on Twitter. So let's get right into it here. So let's take a look at the fastest cars list that we have. So we did the GT500 KR was the fastest, not in top speed, but in a quarter mile. It was the fastest in the quarter mile with a 9.548. And then with drag radials, which the difference between street tires and drag radials is that they have a stickier compound. They aren't great for handling around a track. They have a softer sidewall, which helps with straight line performance, but around a track it sacrifices in grip around a corner. So we tested the cars with the stock compounds that come with the car versus the drag radials. So we saw a big difference in some of the lap times there, or the quarter mile times there. So the McLarens were the fastest in around a track, but they didn't necessarily were the fastest in a straight line. The Shelby was the fastest so far that we've tested, and then also the 918 Spider was 5th place or 4th place in the race times. I think 3rd maybe. Let's see. Yes, so 3rd place, and it was actually faster than the McLaren and the P1 and the Senna there. So kind of cool. Kind of cool how we see the difference in performance from going around a corner into a straight line. So we're going to see what the cars that we might see some of the cars that were really down on the list kind of move up that quarter mile and top speed list. Now, a lot of the supercars do have a really, really high top speed. Some of them are limited by drag because they're more designed to go around a track, and also they're limited by gearing. So if the gear ratios are too short, that really helps you around the track to get the power around that corner, but it sacrifices in the top speed because you don't necessarily have a 1 or 2 mile straightaway in a track scenario where you're going to achieve that top speed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out here with the cars that we have today. So let's take a look. So we got the 2017 Ford GT. We have two Ford GTs. They were both bone stock. So we're going to do one Ford GT because the performance should be roughly around the same time, the track times were very close between the two. It was more just my driver error that differentiated them, the two cars that we have as NFTs. The 2020 Mustang Signature Edition. So we'll see how this 2020 Mustang Signature Edition compares with the other Mustang. That will it beat it in a quarter mile time where it wasn't as fast around the track? Because the 2020 Shelby Mustang Signature Edition is actually based around the Mustang GT versus the GT 500 that is an actual production GT 500 that Ford makes, versus Shelby taking a GT and turning it into the Signature Edition with all their great parts that they come out with. It's basically a showcase of what you can do with a Mustang GT with the right parts from Shelby. So that's going to be interesting to see. And then we have the 2015 Aston Martin DB9. That car was really great around the track. The Ford F100 Big Window Custom Coupe. That's going to be an exciting one to test because it does have a Coyote V8 that is out of a Mustang GT in it as well. The 2015 Dodge Viper, and then the 2006. Here, let me just change that. That's a 2006 Heritage Edition. So it's a different generation. So we're going to have two GTs, but they're in different generations. The Gen 2 versus the Gen 3. This one is a different power plant. It has a 5.4 liter supercharged V8 with a 2.3 liter Lipsum style supercharger, where the 2017 Ford GT has a 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost engine that has been really modified by Ford to showcase how well a twin turbo V6 can perform. So that's going to be really cool to see as well. And then I have my 2004 Mustang Cobra that I have modified to give roughly around the same performance numbers that my car has in the real world. And then my 2017 Z06 that is basically bone stock with a exhaust on it. So be interesting to see those. Those are kind of a bonus. If we don't have time for those, we won't hit those, but we will be doing the first 6 here. So let's kick it off with the Ford GT and see how well it performs here. So let's get into the game. All right. So let's grab the 2017. We got 2 to choose from. They're both identical. Well, let's use this one here. All right, so we're going to start with the quarter mile times and see what the quarter mile times will be on these cars. So we'll do 3 runs each with the car just to make sure everything works well, and then we'll head to the top speed afterwards. So a lot of wheel spin on the stock tires. Probably a big improvement once we put the drag radials on it. All right, so at 11 for almost a 10-second pass, so 11.004. So let's see if we can get a little bit better off the line here and get that improvement. That was a lot of wheel spin. So I think this might actually be a little bit slower. So 135 is the mile per hour. Oh, actually we got that wheel spin actually helped us, so 11.034. So far. So far. It's just, all right, so 11.034 at 135. All right, so pretty respectable time. Really good time. I bet you we'll see it perform a lot better with the drag radials on it. But we'll do one more test just to confirm that, do a backup run, and just make sure that that's the true time that we're going to get here. All right, so pretty much that 11.034 is going to be the fastest. We had first run was 11.049, second one is 11.34, and the third one is 11.50. So really consistent car, and let's move on to the top speed with this car and see what it does for a top speed run. So curious to see how, it's not the fastest in the quarter mile, but the top speed should be pretty impressive on this car. So 205 so far, 217, 220, 220. Oh, looks like 229 maxed out on the gearing. So these cars would technically go faster if we adjusted the gear ratios from the factory. This has factory gearing in it. So 229 is about as fast as the top speed will let us go. I bet you we could probably get it into the 230s somewhere with better gearing. There's a certain point where if you put too tall of a gear in it, it won't climb because there's just not enough power to get it. Not enough power or road to get it that fast. But it looks like 229 is going to be where this car ends up. We'll just finish off the run and head on to the next car. So all these cars were available in our Moto Club car packs. You can check out our website at motoclub.io. There's a QR code on the screen. Take a look at some of the packs that we have. Some of these cars were one-off sold at Barrett-Jackson, and some of them are available in car packs. The one-off cars are very special, unique NFTs, but a lot of the cars that we see here today are going to be available in the car packs as well. So if you want to take a look at those, just scan that QR code in at on the screen there. All right, so 229. So we'll head over and get that logged in. So, all right. So 229. So definitely, so the Senna, very fast car around the track, and the Ford GT, with despite it having less power, it has a better top speed. So that just gives you an idea of some of the so many different performance metrics that we have here to see, and it just shows that certain cars with certain use cases for racing have different metrics for performance, which is interesting to see. So now we're going to get into the 2020 Shelby Signature Edition and see how it performs here. So let's get in. Let's hop into that car and see what it does. So there's the car we did last week, and here is the GT. So curious to see how this performs against the other Mustang and against all the other cars for that matter, but we will see what this car will do. Oh wow, lots of wheel spin. So 139 miles per hour crossing the finish line, 11.928. So lots of wheel spin, so that's to be expected at 139. So mile per hour, much faster than the mile per hour, quite a bit faster than the GT, but just didn't get enough traction off the line. So let's change this here and get the first one on the board. So 11.928. 928. So I bet you at 139. I bet you we're going to see a huge difference when we put the drag radials on this car. Just very traction limited off the line, but let's see if we can improve on that a little bit. Just all through first gear, basically just spins. We're gonna see I guess we got to actually start the race instead of just free run. So since we logged a quarter mile time, I'm going to see if I can maybe you can what is called pedaling it off the line. If you have excessive wheel spin off the line, that's not going to win you a race. So you want to take some power out of it, pedal it, and see if you can grab some traction here. It's a lot harder to do on street tires, but we'll see if we can. Nope, made it worse. So this car takes a little bit to get going just because of the lack of traction. I bet you we're in the 12s on that. Yeah, 12. So it looks like this car is about a high 11-second car without any traction, on the tires, but I bet you we'll see a huge improvement. The mile per hour is big. Mile per hour gives you a good indication of how the car will perform. 139 miles per hour could net you a low 10-second time with the right suspension and tires on it. So this car is capable of more. It just has to have stock tires, and street tires are not ideal for drag racing. They have a lot harder compound on them. They're, for everything around town and everyday use. You want to have good traction in the rain. You want to have good traction on the street. And drag radials are really bad in the rain. I've been caught out in the rain. I have drag radials on my Mustang. Getting caught out in the rain on drag radials is not fun. They're not great on the rain, whereas a street tire like what comes on a stock Mustang or a stock Camaro, things like that, are going to be a lot better on the road versus on the track. So did we get at least an improvement on that? Nope. Nope, but we're really bang on with the time. So let's see what it does in the top speed here. And for top speed runs, traction off the line isn't as important. You got a lot of real estate. If you notice, a lot of the cars are maxed out before we even get to the end of the test. So this traction is not nearly as important. Well, of course, when you're at high speeds, you want to make sure you have traction, but most of the time the car will gather itself in the higher gears and be able to keep traction at the higher speed. So this car's still fighting traction even at the taller. You can see if you look on the bottom right, you can see the RPMs jumping. That's because the car is trying to grab traction. So 255, 256, 260, 262, 264, 265. Oh wow, 266, 267, 268. Highest I've seen is 268. I think I might be able to get even more on this straight. So just shows this has really tall gears in the car, a lot of horsepower. Final straight here. Looks like 268 is about as good as I can get it. Car is surprisingly hard to control at a top speed because it's just trying for traction, trying to gather up the traction. But 268 miles an hour is very impressive for this car. So let's see. Let's update that. Controller was on there. Let's get that out of the way. All right, so 269 miles an hour. Now, could you ever do this in I don't think you could ever. It's nice about having this a racing simulation like this, where you would never be able to achieve these speeds. You couldn't find a straightaway, nor could you do it on a road-going road. The straights that are available as a closed course are literally unavailable to the public. So unless you have friends in high places, you would probably never get a chance to see how fast your Mustang would go when you modified it like that. And then a lot of things come into factor. A lot of heat's produced in these cars, and would it survive at that top speed? We're not too sure. Also, aerodynamics come into play too. You know, in a real world situation, would that car be able to maintain on the road? I'm having trouble in a video game trying to keep it on the road, let alone in the real world. So, but nonetheless, basically a video game like this shows how much power and how much weight and how much performance the car would do. So theoretically, it could get up to the 269 miles per hour. Whether you could replicate that in the real world, not 100% sure, but that just shows you that it's 11.9, one of the slowest cars in the quarter mile because of traction, and it gets up to 269 miles an hour, and that is faster than the two McLarens, even faster than the GT500 KR. Only one that is faster than that is the 918 Spider, so that's really impressive. So we're going to move on to the Aston Martin DB9 now and see what this car can do. Then we're going to go back through, select all the cars, put drag rails on them, and see how fast we can get these top speeds or quarter mile times with as much traction as we can. right, so change cars here. So 565 horsepower, give you an idea of 825 horsepower. So quite a big difference in power, but we might see in stock form this Aston Martin outperform in the quarter mile just because it might have a little bit better traction off the line. Having too much power is not always necessarily better if you don't have the right things behind it, like suspension, tires, things like that. You can have 1,000 horsepower, all the horsepower in the world. If you can't put it down to the ground, your car isn't going to perform the way you want it. I see it every day in the racing community and things like that I'm involved in. If anybody has heard of a dynamometer, will measure how much horsepower the car puts down on a real world scenario. There's a difference between rear wheel horsepower and what is called brake horsepower or flywheel horsepower. All the engine ratings that you see in factory specs, like from Ford or GM or Ferrari or Lamborghini, any of those will be flywheel horsepower or BHP, which is brake horsepower. When you put it on a Mustang or a dynamometer, it is what is actually planted through the to the ground. There is a metric there where you get some drivetrain loss through the transmission, that you will actually see a lower number than the flywheel number, because the flywheel number is the measurement taken at the engine itself, where rear wheel horsepower is going through a transmission and planted to the ground. So you usually tend to see an efficiency loss of whether it's an automatic or a manual transmission. You usually see about a 15 to 30% loss based on the transmission, and every car is different. So it really depends on how efficient the transmission is and how well that translate into a rear wheel horsepower number. So it's curious to see if 565 horsepower can outperform with stock tires, because there's not as much power to put to the ground, that it will probably have a better line. And like we were talking in the last stream, most of the drag races won in the first 60 feet just based on how much traction you can get off the line, and that propels you all the way through that quarter mile pass. 124 for the quarter mile per hour and a 12.29, so not enough power. We did get a little bit of spinning, so we will see an improvement on it, but even with a traction limited performance of the Mustang, it still was able, the horsepower at the top end was able to outperform this car in a quarter mile. So let's update the race times here. We'll get the baseline for the Aston Martin. So that's a 12.290 and a 12 second at 125 miles an hour. And let's do a backup run just to see. Always, whenever I'm drag racing, I'm a big drag racer. I don't do as much road course circuit racing as drag racing, but whenever I run a personal best with my cars, I always want to run a couple passes to solidify that, just in case there's a timing error, things like that. In this game, it's not going to be necessarily the case. It's all computerized, but when you're in the real world scenario, you always what's called a backup pass. Let's say you run a 10.0 and you want to do a backup pass to get that 10.0 again, just to kind of validate that time. 125 again, crossing the line. 12.291, that's pretty much bang on where it is. So let's go check the top speed of this car and see where it stands up with the top speed here. That's what I really love about this game is you can do all these cool tests and things like that. You can do it in some of the old Forzas and other games, but it just makes it so easy because there's a lot of customization on where you go in the world. It's a huge map, and you can choose big straights like this and see how fast it goes, or run a quarter mile and see how fast it does in that. It's just really neat. So I can tell you right now, this is going to be a lot more stable of a top speed run than the Mustang. So you see how smooth the RPM is versus the Mustang was bouncing like crazy. So 172. So, and keep in mind, anything over 200 miles an hour is impressively fast for a road going car. 221. Looks like we're out of gear at 221. Got up to top speed really quickly. So it looks like 221 is going to be where we're at. We have another 3 miles, so I'm going to cut this one short. We have a really good idea of where we're at. So 221 is where we are at for the Aston Martin, which is quite impressive nonetheless. So let's get that updated. All right, 221. All right, so far it looks like the fastest out of today's runs is the Ford GT. Fastest in the quarter mile with street tires, not the fastest in the top speed. That goes to the 2020 GT500. And then looks like the Aston Martin's having a little bit of trouble against the Mustang and the Ford GT, but I'm curious to see what this F100, because it was fast around the track for a truck. It's just really cool that you can see some technology from a newer vehicle go into a old truck and make it very impressive. So let's get into the F100 here and get back to the drag strip here. Now the new Forza's coming out in later this year. I'm really hoping they had in the old Forza before this, they had a actual quarter mile drag strip that you could go on. It was a beta. It wasn't. It was a late addition to it, so it didn't get as much traction. So hopefully they have that at launch, and we can do some really cool tests with these cars. Alright, so not looking good for the truck. 13.3. I just saw it 112 miles an hour. It wasn't going to be a really fast pass. Still very respectable for a truck. Definitely a lot. I bet you this truck stock would be a 18-19 second truck. So very impressive that it's in the 13s, and we'll probably see that. I was spinning quite a bit. We'll probably get that into the 12s with drag radials. So let's update our times here, and let's see. So that was 112 miles an hour and 372, and that was a 13. So respectable for a truck. You can't expect much out of a truck because it's a truck that's a 1956 Ford F100. Definitely didn't run a 13.3 back when it came out of the factory from Ford. So it's definitely a big improvement over the factory time. And we'll see probably that get a lot faster when we put some drag radials on it. As you can just see, we'll do one more backup pass here. Tons of spin. $10. 13.37. So let's just go there. So it was 110. It was a little off on the mile per hour. So 13.371, 13.372. Really consistent. So at 110. It's a little off on that. So now we're going to hop into the 2015 Viper and see how it performs. Well, this car has 600 plus horsepower, so it should be quite a good run. The one thing with the Viper though is with the stock tires, it has huge tires on it, but it has literally zero traction aids, and they aren't known for having great traction off the line. They're probably one of the most owners have the most problems with the car and street driving because it's a very visceral driving experience. There isn't a lot of aids to them. They are not for the weak of heart in terms of driving ability. They will bite you if you drive them a little too aggressively. So not known for great traction off the line, and we will see how it performs here. So 640 horsepower versus truck had 500 and change here, 400 and change. So we'll see how it performs. So thanks for everybody who's joined in. Make sure you take a look at our socials, Moto Club Digital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our Discord is here. I'm going to type it in the chat if anybody wants to join the Discord. So if you have any questions or anything about some of the NFTs that we have on our website, wants to discuss some of the packs that you've purchased, feel free to join the Discord and get involved with the community. And then also take a look at our website. It's a pretty cool website. We have lots of cool card packs available. You can collect them, trade them on our marketplace, sell them, and have some fun collecting your full sets of card packs here. Alright, so I didn't get the top speed of the F100, so what we'll do is we'll get the quarter mile times since I have the car selected, and we'll get those we'll get the top speed of the F100 after we do the Viper here. .22 for the Viper. Now Vipers have really tall gearing. They aren't ideal off the line for quarter mile. They're really good at top speed runs, so I have big hopes for this car at the top speed run. So 11.995. Let's do a backup pass, and we'll see if we can beat that time. This car is one of those that will really benefit from drag radials off the line. For the mile per hour crossing the finish line. So 11.995 at 122. So let's get that updated here. 125, 122. All right. So respectable time. 12, a high 11, low 12-second car is nothing to shake a stick at. They are very fast cars, and we'll see this one perform really well, I think, in the top speed run, which we'll try right now, and then we'll go back over to the F100 that I missed the top speed run for that. Alright, we're off. Alright, 212, 13, we're climbing now. 220. 131, 132, or 232, sorry, 233. 234, 235, 236. 236 is where we're gonna end up here. We might be able to squeeze one more at this last straightaway. 237, yeah. 238, 239, 240, 241, 242. All right, 242 miles an hour. So, pretty impressive. All right, so 242. All right, so yeah, one of the slower track times, but 242 miles an hour. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive there for that, for the Viper. And we'll see that quarter mile time pick up quite a bit on the drag radial run when we do that. So let's hop back into the F100 and get the top speed going for that. So back into the F100 here. And we are going to see what it'll do on the top speed. Now, no guarantees if I can keep it on. The aerodynamic properties of an F100 is definitely not the same as the aerodynamic properties of a Viper, Ford GT, and McLaren. There's definitely going to be some stability versus those vehicles, but the way this truck is lowered and should have decent traction. So the other thing is the gearing is stock in it, so be curious to see how fast this truck tops out. definitely see that it's having a little bit of trouble getting. It has gearing. This is what I was trying to explain before. It has the gearing to go faster. It just doesn't have A, the power, or B, the aerodynamics to do so. It's like a wind sail versus something like a missile. So there's a lot of drag on the front of this car, and this game is great for showing kind of the aerodynamics of cars and downforce and things like that. When you're trying to hurl a 5,000-pound truck down at top speed and it doesn't have the greatest aerodynamics, it's going to suffer quite a bit. So 164 miles an hour is kind of where it sits. It has the gearing to go faster, it just doesn't have the power. Now there's two ways to do that. You make it more aerodynamic, or you add more power, but then also the aerodynamics are going to still come into play. You put a bunch of horsepower on this car, you probably could get it to go 200 miles an hour, but it's not going to cut through the air like a Viper or a Ford GT. Those cars are designed in wind tunnels to get the maximum amount of downforce on the car with the design. So I don't think the engineers at Ford, when the Ford F100 was released, were keep putting that into account. So it looks like we tipped to about 170 miles an hour there on that run. Pretty respectable for a 1956 truck, so definitely not the best performer out of the group, but it's definitely a impressive truck for sure. So we will get that top speed here, so 170 miles an hour. All right, so we got the truck done. So far it looks like the Mustang is the clear-cut winner in top speed, and the Ford GT is looking like to bring up the front in the quarter mile times. But we still have the 2006 Heritage Edition. They are very impressive cars, roughly around the same horsepower as the Ford GT, the newer generation Ford GT. So we'll see, curious to see how it performs. So let's hop in that car and see if we can get some times on it. .19 miles an hour. What's the so 12.33? So very similar to the Viper, similar mile per hour, similar quarter mile time. Definitely traction limited off the line, so we will see if that gets improvement over with the drag radials when we put those on. I'm excited to see the difference in performance of these cars, because we did see quite a difference, especially with the Camaro last week. The Camaro was one of the slowest cars, and it really picked up some 119. I just think it won. We'll give it one. We'll give it the benefit of that 120. So let's do a backup run and see if we can get some improvements on that. It's 119. It's not 120. So. 12.341, so very, very close. So that's, I think, the best we're going to get out of that car. So we're just going to change that back to 119. I want to make it as accurate as we can. you know, this is all just for fun, but it'd be nice to get some real metrics. All right, let's see how it does in the top speed. Now, it's funny that, you know, you look at the performance of it, it's a 12.3 second quarter mile, but the interesting thing is this car actually holds the record for the fastest top speed by a modified car, and I think it actually just broke it not too long ago. A company put twin turbos on it, two big turbos, and actually these cars respond very well to modifications. So it is definitely a car that has lots of potential to go fast. All right, so let's see what kind of top speed we can get out of this car. Alright, and we're off. So already it's climbing quite fast. It's really promising. So we still have 2 more gears to go. Ford GTs come with a 6-speed transmission in it. Manual, they did not offer automatic in this car. So we're at 250. 222, 223, 224. I have to take a little bit of a turn here. Continue the speed throughout these corners. 230. Down always gives us a little bit of speed. 242, 243. Looks like 243 is going to be fastest on this course. You get a little bit of a benefit on that down on some of the cars. A lot of cars that are just maxed out, you don't even make it there because it's just physically not going to get there. Probably lose maybe a few miles per hour on that, but let's just see here. 242. All right, so far looks like we have fastest top speed would be the 2020 Shelby Signature Edition. Fastest quarter mile is the 2017 Ford GT. And we haven't done any of the drag rail times. We're going to do that last with all the cars. It's just kind of a fun little test. There's something that doesn't come on the car. So the next one is my 2004 Mustang Cobra and my 2017 Corvette Z06. I got these cars as close as the modifications that I've done. Well, the Corvette is bone stock with exhaust, and my Mustang is a single turbo built car that's I've owned since I was 21, and I have just done mods that I don't even remember to it at this point because I've done so much to it. So we'll see how this performs here. Now, I do have drag radials on my car. The car hasn't had a street tire on it since since probably 2008, but I am, just for fun, we're gonna get into it, and I am actually going to put street tires back on it just to see the difference. We'll keep it as where we did a theoretical putting drag radials on the car for the tests on the other cars. I'm going to do the opposite, where I'm going to put street tires on it and see the difference between what my car would do on street tires versus what my car would do on race tires. Also, if you notice, mine's a 2004, but there's a 2000. The car didn't change very much from these times, but they don't. I've never seen a 2003 or 2004 Mustang Cobra in a game in the last 15 years. So this is as close as we're going to get. So let's just go and do a little bit of modification to it. So we're just going to fast travel, get those tires switched over, and then we'll get off to the quarter-mile track here. Tires. So we're gonna go to the bone stock tires, because to be honest, the tires that came from the factory on my car were not great. We'll say that. So definitely, if you look at their performance metrics here, actually, sorry, I'll get over to this. If you look at the performance metrics, so it goes from their performance class of S1 to an A. So quite a huge difference in performance between stock street tires and drag radials. So curious to see how this is going to perform, and let's see what the car will do on street tires. So I haven't driven this car on street tires a long time, but I remember the last time I did, it was very hard to keep on the road with street tires. Yeah, sounds about right for that. All right. So 12.6 at 140 miles an hour. So that just goes to show you this car makes 1,000 horsepower and it runs at 12.6. Power does not always equate to the fastest time, and this is a prime example of it. So 12.6 at 100. And just for reference, the fastest I have gone in this car, well, I've done some modifications to it, and I haven't been to the track this year, but at around 800 horsepower, I went a 10.4 at 138 miles an hour. Also, I live up in not great air. That's the other factor in the real world scenarios is density, altitude, how far above sea level cars will perform differently. The higher above sea level, the harder the car is to breathe, and there's no factor like that in this game. So all right, so 12.67, we'll do one more run. Definitely was what we call a spin fest off the line. So be interesting to see how much different it does with drag radials. Mm, 12.52, a little bit of an improvement, but definitely a lot of tire spin. Just if you look at the car, it's just bouncing off the rev limiter, and doesn't isn't happy throughout the run with very limited traction. So just got to find that here. There it is. All right, so 12.523 at 140. All right, so let's get to the top speed run. So I'm going to give it the same at this point. It's probably a disadvantage for me, but we're going to use the stock tires on it for the top speed run, where I think it's going to be hard to keep on the road versus even the drag radials at top speed. Probably we wanted a true indicator, a set of really sticky race compound tires with a very stiff wall would be the best for top speed runs. So we shall see. Just begging for traction. It's like 262 is where it tops out. I'll tell you this thing from owning this car, I will never ever be able to achieve that in a real world scenario. 262 with 2 kilometers to go. That's about where it's going to be. So 262 for my Mustang. Which is quite impressive. Will that ever happen in real life? Absolutely not. All right, so, well, it's still not faster than the Signature Edition, but pretty respectable. Interesting to see how much my car will pick up against with the drag radials on it. All right, so it's off to the Corvette, and we'll see what how it does here. right, 11.081, pretty impressive. And I've never been to the track with this car. I got it right before. We're in winter here up in Canada, so I had it for 2 weeks before the snow flew, and it went into the garage under a car cover. So I've never actually had a chance to take it and see what it does in the quarter mile, so I'm interested to see if that's even close to what it would run. I'd be pretty happy if it did for a bone stock car. So that was about, let's do one more pass on it and get a backup run like we want to do. Make sure it's the consistency there. So 1174 to 135. That's pretty happy with that. If I could do that in the real world, I'd be pretty darn happy. Alright, so let's see what the top speed of this guy will end up being, and then we'll put the drag radials on all the cars and see how the performance picks up with a drag compound tire on it. All right. Oh, whoops. So it's caught in a gear. Caught in 8th gear after I hit that bump. I think it was about 240. Cars do have really tall gears, so I'd give it about a 240, 241. I thought it tipped that a little bit, so pretty impressive. If I would have switched to, my car is an automatic. It does have manual shift mode, but it might have been able to gear back down after it hit that bump, but we'll call it 241. Don't think we're going to get that much more out of it anyway. Alright, so it looks like my cars stack up pretty okay against some of these cars, but that 2020 Mustang Signature Edition is definitely definitely by far the fastest if you were wanting to do some top speed runs, and the Ford GT with the on stock tires is definitely one of the fastest. Now, if you look at last week's, we can see a lot of, like, for example, the KR, really good tires from the factory. He only picked up a couple tenths. Same with the Porsche 918, picked up 4/10. But we saw huge improvements on the McLaren P1, the Senna, and the Hennessy Resurrection. The biggest jump was was over a full second on the Hennessy just from the tires alone. So we'll see what these drag radials will do on these vehicles. So we're going to hop back in the Ford GT and hop over onto some drag radials with them and see how it does. But so far, pretty happy with how the cars are performing. Poor F100 actually did really good at the race times, and definitely an awesome handling truck. Not a great in the straight line, but that's to be expected from a heavy 56 Ford truck that was not designed to go that fast. So still pretty impressive. Alright, so we're going to hop back into the Ford GT. If I can find it here. There it is. And we are going to put the drag compound tires on it and see how much power or how much time it picks up from stock. So head over to the garage. The upgrades here. Tires. And go all the way down to those drag compounds. Now if you look at it, it'll lower the, like I was explaining before, softer stiff wall tires will, or softer sidewall tires will sacrifice in handling versus the stiffer tires. So you actually see here in the game that it does go down. The lateral G's will go down versus the performance, straight line performance will go up. So it actually technically thinks the car is going to get slower, but it will make the car faster in a straight line because it does have more traction off the line. All right. So first rerun of the Ford GT in with drag radials. Just no spin at all. $136 and a 10.38. So definitely an improvement. So 10.38 at 138 miles an hour. All right. So picked up a ton of mile per hour as well. So 138, 10.382. Just amazing what a car will perform when it has a proper traction. All right, so we'll do a backup run on it. Well, I'm just going to restart this here. Just unbelievable traction with a set of drag radials on it. $36. 10385. So huge improvement. So let's head all right. All right, now let's next car is, and then we're going to be hopping in the signature edition. I'm going to see, I think we're going to see big, that was a 136. I think they were pretty consistent there. It's hard for me. I got to actually look at it doesn't tell you the actual trap speed at the end of the run. The old Forza did, but this one doesn't. So you have to give it, you have to kind of guess yourself just at the end there. But hopefully in the new Forza, we're going to get some cooler performance metrics. But 10.382 at 136. We picked up 1 mile per hour, which makes sense because of the old other cars here picked up a mile per hour respectively with the drag radials, and it picked up 6/10 in the quarter, roughly about 6/10 in the quarter. So that's a huge improvement with traction. Very quick car. And let's see what the 2020 Signature Edition will do. Well, this car has quite a bit more power, a little bit heavier of a car, not by much though, but we'll see how it does. All right. Still spun even with drag radials. Wow. $10.35 at 100 and I think it was 142. We'll back that up here, but let me just log the 10.35 and we'll get the proper core. I'll pay more close attention. So I think it was 142 it said, so it did pick up quite a bit. 10.352. I'll say 142 so far. We'll do one more backup run and all right. So very close to the Ford GT in terms of quarter mile times. Ford GT is very impressive car in the quarter mile, despite of it having 225 less horsepower. It's definitely a impressive machine. And a lot of people, when they're buying a performance car, it's not all about straight line performance, not all about cornering. They want a good all-around vehicle. And even though the Ford GT is a very expensive car, it's a great all-around performing vehicle. And so are the McLarens. A lot of those cars, they are very fast in a straight line. They're very fast around corners. That's what makes them so attractive to car enthusiasts. Mustang, more designed for straight line performance and quarter mile. But they do actually handle, in the newer generations here, like this Mustang versus the generation of the car that I own, definitely a better handling car. So yeah, went 142, 10.34, pretty much bang on. So I think that's a good one to log there. So 10.42 for the Mustang, or 10.34 at 142. So let's see, 10.352. So we actually picked up a little bit of performance there, and we'll log that in. All right, so we're off to the Aston Martin. So it went at 12.290 at 125. Let's see what we can improve upon that with the Aston Martin. So the nice thing about putting drag radials on a car that doesn't make a ton, well, you know, in today's world, 560 horsepower, when you're looking at Hellcats with 800 horsepower and Mustangs with 750, one of the more underpowered cars, if you would say, which is still kind of impressive that it makes that much power. But when you put drag radials on a car that doesn't have, that it's not overpowering the tires like that Mustang, we put drag radials on it, it still spun where the 4GT did not spin at all. So it'd be interesting to see how this is going to hook up with the drag radials. It might really pick up some good time because will have probably zero tire spin. Zero tire spin. So 124 miles an hour and a 11.52. So it picked up 0.7 of a second just by putting drag radials on it. So at 124. All right, so 12.29 to 11.5. So let's take a look here and get this done. Update that. And 520. All right, we'll do one backup pass, see if we can improve upon that, and then off to the next car here. Now 11.505, so a little bit quicker. So mid 11-second car, nothing to. At 124, a very impressive performance boost when you get full traction on a car. So that's 505. So, all right. So Aston Martin 11.5, so picked up quite a bit of performance there. Interesting to see. We're gonna hop in the F100. We'll see how much it picks up here with drag radials on it. And we could go, maybe in later streams we'll go as far as adjusting the suspension settings. I can softening the spring rates, changing the rebound, things like that will also make the car's handle not only better around a corner but also better at the drag strip. Different adjustments to suspension will give you different performance metrics and different performance in both drag racing and in road racing. Man, no spin here. Might be promising. There you go, 12.4, mid 12s at 112. So went from a 13 second, picked up almost a full second from its stock tires. At 112. So 2 mile per hour improvement and almost pretty much a full second on that, just by changing the tires and having traction off the line. So huge improvement for the truck. We're going to do a backup pass, see if we can get that time just a little bit a little bit better. 12.42. So pretty much bang on 12.4, 12.440. So that's a 12.2.429. So a little bit of a pickup here. The car likes to steer to the left, so I just kind of let it go. That's why I kind of drifted over, but it actually picked up some time doing that instead of trying to keep it straight. So awesome improvement there. Now I think we're going to see a big improvement on the next car, which is the Viper, because it has definitely has some traction issues off the line, and I think the drag radials are really going to help this car out. All right, I'm excited to see how this one performs with the tires, because definitely be a huge improvement. Alright. Dead hook. Oh, 123 miles an hour and at 11.5. So 11.568. So didn't pick up as much as some of the other cars. And it goes back to, you know, sometimes it's the gearing, very tall first. If you look at very tall first, and with that dead hook, gets up to speed, but this car does not get going until the higher speeds. But picked up a couple mile per hour and went to a mid 11-second car, so very close to the Aston Martin, and pretty impressive gain on that as well. So we're going to do one quick. We're going to do one more backup pass and see how it does. So 11.562, pretty much bang on. So that's kind of where we're going to sit. Oh, I'll give it the improved time here. So that was 6.2. And we're off to the last one of the NFT cars, and that's the Ford GT. So let's see what it can do here. Alright, get this, and we'll get some drag radials on it. Spin. 119 miles an hour, and we got a 12.237. Let's see. So we only picked up same mile per hour. We only picked up a tenth. It's just amazing how different cars will perform differently with drag radials. So very surprising that we only picked up literally a tenth of a second from stock street tires or performance. They put a higher end tire on some of these on the Ford GTs, but not a huge difference in performance. We picked up literally a tenth. That's it. So we'll give it a backup run and see if we can improve on that, but not a huge gain. Not as big of a gain as some of the other cars, like Viper, for example, didn't have a huge gain. We gained a whole second on the truck. Quite a big difference on the Aston Martin. Huge difference on the Mustang, and huge difference on the goes from 11-second car to a 10-second car on both the Ford GT and the 2020 Signature Edition. Just crazy the difference between the two, and what tires come on what cars. So we'll see if this. And the big thing is a similar gearing to the Viper, big tall first gear. And we're only going through third. I think we might click fourth. Not even 3 gears on the car. through the quarter mile. So 12.193, so a lot better this time around, but definitely not a huge improvement that we were hoping to see, but an improvement nonetheless. So all right, so 12.193 at 119. So that is all the cars, the improvements. So going back to today's NFTs and seeing the initial quarter mile time versus when we put the drag compound tires on it. So big performance improvements on the 2017 Ford GT, the Gen 3. Then we see a huge performance increase on the Mustang, which is to be expected. You're on a street tire with 825 horsepower. Look at my Mustang, for example, which we're going to test here next. But lots of power and not a lot of traction is not going to net you a huge quarter mile time. And that just proves that putting a sticky tire on it really improves the performance of that car by over a second. So that's a huge increase. Some good improvements on the Aston Martin. Some big improvements on the F100. Not a huge improvement on the Viper. You would think it would pick up a little bit more. And Ford GT, very, very great off the assembly line. Great performance. Putting a drag radial on it didn't really give you, picked up a tenth, just over a tenth, but not a huge performance difference between the two, with drag radials and without. So very interesting to see that. So let's hop in my personal cars here and see how they perform. Gonna probably see a huge pickup from a drag radial on my Mustang. Definitely see a performance increase there, but I'm not too sure how the Corvette will improve. So let's get some drag radials on this car and all right, let's see how it does. It still spins. But picked up huge overall 989, 9892 at 150. So big improvement for the Mustang. At 150. All right, so let's try again here. Oh, I didn't even get to show it. So, a lot of tire spin, but the car makes a lot of power, so. $983.9 at 150. So let's see here. 150. So pretty big jump. So going from a 12-second, so 12.523 at 140 miles an hour to a 9.839 at 150, which is pretty much the goal for my car. When I get it on the track this year, I was hoping to run a 990, a 980 at that 150. So it's actually pretty darn close to where I think the car is going to run this year. I never got to go on the track here with the new power. Ended up hurting my motor before and putting a new motor in it with some performance, just some upgrades to it. So be interesting to see how that performs here when I actually get it at the track. So some big gains on the Mustang, on my Mustang, which is to be expected. 1,000 horsepower on street tires is not something I would advise to anybody. You have to have the proper traction on the car when you do modifications, and also the safety equipment that goes along with it. Roll cages, harnesses, helmets, things like that. You need those in the performance cars as you do modifications. If you look at any race car versus any street car, you will see huge differences in the safety equipment that they use, and that is no different in any sort of racing. You want to keep safe. You want to get home at the end of the day. Accidents do happen, and you want to make sure that you're protected if that's the case. And every track that you go to, whether it's a road course or a drag strip, will have safety requirements that you need, and this is a huge thing that everybody has to understand, is you have to abide by those rules. It's not just for you, but it's for the people around you, and also to make sure that you actually get to make it home at the end of the day. Drag racing is a lot of fun, but it is also, as you get into the higher levels, you want to make sure that you're running safely and you have the proper safety equipment. So all right, so last one of the day, the Corvette. I'm going to throw some drag radials on it and see how it performs. So we'll pick up a whole almost 3 seconds, maybe not, but let's... So we got the drag radials on it. So I can only guess it's at least going to get into that 10 seconds. So we'll see how it does here. We're at 136 miles an hour and a 10.3. 10.3 at 136 with a set of drag radials on it. That is impressive. Not a heck of a lot slower than the Mustang, that's for sure. But keep in mind, as so that was 136 and a 10.302. So we're going to do a backup pass, and that's going to be it for the cars we have for today. But let's just get this last backup pass going here and finish off the day here. So 10.262. If I could run that in my car, I would be over the moon if I could get that with just a set of drag radials on it. And of course, I have a It's called a Corsa exhaust. That's the only modification of the car. Stock air filter, stock everything else. My car has the stock tires that comes with it. So, but might have to. I have a friend with a Corvette with a set of drag compound tires. I might have to borrow them and see if I can get down to the track and see. So that wraps up everything for the cars here. So just a quick overview. Looks like we don't have any cars that got ahead of the cars we did. So the top 5 NFTs that we see if we go to the race times, those kind of switched up a little bit. The Shelby took #1 spot versus the McLarens, and the Porsche leapfrog there as well, and the Camaro kind of stayed roughly around the same in the 5th place. So we saw no big jump from the slower cars around the track, kind of leapfrogging up to that top 5 position, but we did see some huge gains in the cars from the drag radials to the street tires. But probably the biggest jump is that that signature edition actually leapfrogged the Hennessy, so it would move up to the top 5. I will update this. We are going to do the rest of the cars. I'm going to do part 3 where we go and do the rest of the cars here. Want to see, then we can at least have all of the information from the quarter-mile time to the top speed to around the track, and then we'll have to find out some more fun things to do with these cars in the future. But definitely going to round out the fastest quarter mile and top speed runs to see kind of how those changes, how the cars change. We won't see probably the bottom of the cars leapfrog into the top 5 just from the sheer horsepower. I'm curious to see how some of those older muscle cars will do with a nice set of tires on them versus the stock tires. And then also how, for example, the one that comes to mind is the Shelby. We'll go over to the lap times here. This Shelby has a lot of horsepower. Was hard to keep going around the track. I'm even curious to see if on stock tires how well it performs and if it leapfrogs up, past that Viper, past that Aston Martin down the road, to see what it does in terms of performance. But so far, they're all shaping up to be kind of where they need to be. The top speed runs are kind of just a more fun metric because we will never ever be able to replicate that on a real road unless you found a closed course 2 miles straight to see what would it do. And then also tons of factors go into it. Like, I honestly don't even think my Mustang Cobra at 262 miles per hour, I don't think the motor would survive that type of punishment, to be honest, going to that speed. Now, that's where the difference between, like the Mustang and the Mustangs and the Camaros and things like that. The newer Mustang and Camaro would probably be able to achieve something along the lines of a high mile per hour top speed, but the McLaren, the Senna, the 918 Spider, those are designed to have that top speed in mind, and they're designed to be able to handle those kind of speeds where Mustangs and things are not designed to go 250 miles an hour unless you do extensive modifications to them. Pretty exciting to see how these all stacked up. I'm excited to test the rest of the cars for you guys in the next stream and see where they stack up as well. See if we see any shocking performance difference. I think some of those older muscle cars with a set of drag radials are going to be very surprising. And then we saw, some big improvements from drag radials versus street tires, where we saw, like, for example, that 2006 Ford GT, little to no improvement on the performance of it. So that wraps everything up here for the stream. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you hit that QR code. It leads you to motoclub.io. MotoClub.io gets you where we have all our card packs. Some really cool things are coming in 2023. We're very excited. We'll share with you as they come down, as they're available to share. So hit that QR code, get some of those card packs, start collecting those card packs. They're really fun way to collect if you're a car enthusiast, collect and sell some really cool things for NFTs. So that's motoclub.io, discord.gg. It's in the chat there. Join up, get involved in the community. You'll get updated on the cool things that are happening here with MotoClub. Facebook.com/MotoClub Digital, Instagram.com/MotoClub Digital, and Twitter.com/MotoClub Digital is where you'll get all the updates and the latest things all MotoClub. So be sure you are able to take a look at those. And yeah, that was a really fun stream. It was very enjoyable. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And that is it for me. And we will see you guys in the next stream. Have a good day and take care.